For early access to new episodes and other exclusive content, go to patreon.com/MiharuTheFox. Hey guys, it's Miharu and welcome back to SpyroCast. This is episode 54, and today I have with me a very special guest. Introduce yourself, please.
I am Wyatt Ewert, independent novelist and video essayist, I guess.
Very cool. So you are the author of the Knight Saga, in which I have done promotional material.
I have.
Yeah, I play Zeph, and I love that character very much. She's very much one of my favorite characters to play.
Yep, she is very funny.
So, what is your history with Spyro?
Spyro was the first game I had ever played. I think I played it at my cousin's house when I was really young. And then my parents got a PlayStation 2 with a copy of Spyro the Dragon. No PS1 memory cards. And it's a game that I played a great deal of, though I could not save my files at all. So there's always a race to see how far I could get. Yeah. I never got Spyro 2. The closest I ever got was like playing it at a friend's house. I wound up getting it when I was older, when I got a PlayStation 3. But most of my childhood was with Spyro 1 and Spyro 3, which I think was a Christmas gift. And both of those were very magical experiences. I really loved exploring the worlds, looking at the mythology of it all, even if it's something I didn't put that much thought into it.
Nice. So mostly 1 and 3, huh?
Yeah, mostly 1 and 3. Like when I was younger, but I still like kept up with it as I got older. I didn't get a chance to play Enter the Dragonfly when I was a kid, but that's probably for the best. I got a Hero's Tale. I think as like one of those little book fairs the schools like to do, where you like look through a magazine and stuff, and I just saw Spyro Hero's Tale in there for some reason. So I ordered that. I played it. I liked it, but like the second half kind of lost me. Then Legend Trilogy came and went. I loved the story of it, the atmosphere and the music, but I really hated the gameplay until the third entry. And well, like everyone else, I was waiting for something to come, and nothing came until Reignited. And now here we are with Arby. Yes,
Spyro's Arby's. What are your favorite and least favorite games?
Well, I'm gonna start with my least favorite, The Eternal Night. I like the story of it. I love the revelation that the Dark Master was the first purple dragon. I thought it was a really nice sort of Empire Strikes Back entry story-wise, but and it did it added some nice new features to the gameplay system, but it was so crushingly difficult. I think I rage quit at the penultimate fight, and I learned that was the penultimate fight until I returned to it years later. It was just not a pleasant game to play. As for favorite, that is something I've been struggling with for a good long time. There was a time when I was younger, I would say Spyro 2, because I did pick up Spyro 2 when I got a PlayStation 3, and I love how quirky it is. But as I got older, I found myself, and when I got my hands on the Reignited trilogy, I found myself realizing that I love the level design and the general architecture of the original Spyro more. And recently, I found myself getting more excited for Spyro 3 whenever I replay the games, because there is a sort of majesty to its atmosphere. But if I had to really sit down and think about it, I'm just going to say Spyro 1, because it was very beautifully simple with some really nice puzzle-like level design to really get you thinking.
Yeah, that's nice. I would say the same about Spyro 1, how it's beautifully simple. The soundtrack is definitely the best one of the three.
Yeah, I think so, yeah.
And that's, the way that it approaches its level design and the way it's structured, I really hope that they kind of take a page from that when it comes to A Realm Beyond, which is my next question. What were your thoughts when you saw the trailer for A Realm Beyond?
Well, the thing is, I didn't pay that much attention to a lot of the game showcases those days. So I just woke up, pulled up my computer, and I saw recommendation feed, Spyro Realm Beyond trailer. Like, what? Yeah, and I hurried to try and sort of record my own reaction, but I I botched the recording process. But I I did not believe it was going to happen. I know a lot of people were saying you should have hope. I find that can lead to disappointment, and I didn't think Spyro was a big enough game, even though it was the talk of the town when Reignite came back. I did not think it was a big enough title to justify a very long development cycle. So I was completely blindsided and very happy to see it. And looking at it, it really looked magical, like very Pixar-ish. You're setting up a serious conflict, and um, the teasing of free fight, which has always been a questionable subject for Spyro, but always one that people are happy to enjoy. I was I was definitely excited, to put it simply.
Yeah, I think a lot of people were caught off guard by that, mainly because, as you said, it doesn't seem to get as much recognition as it should, and for those of us who have been talking about a quote-unquote Spyro 4 for years and, building up hype that this day would come, there were a lot of non-believers out there, so I'm glad the truth is finally known. So that was a big surprise. Now, what are some of the most important things you think this game should have, and what would it need to do in order to surpass your current favorite?
Well, I'll start with the most blatant. It needs a return to sort of the non-linear exploration format, and I don't mean like open world because I think A Hero's Tale tried for open world and it felt a little dreary. I meant in more like you're in Dry Canyon and you see that one cliff with a dragon and a key, and you keep gliding to it, but you keep failing to get there. You're just thinking, how did I get there? How did I get there? And the game is dropping little clues like Dry Canyon rewards good gliders, or like a few gems on a cliffside that are precariously leaning to the left. And all that sort of helps you put together, oh, I'm supposed to fly from this other cliff. So, like, something like that is very rewarding to players who think and explore and really put together what elements they have at their disposal. And it sounds like they're doing that. I just looked at an interview where they mentioned that they're trying to do something like that with a lot of the free flight mechanics. Um, but that's a big thing. I don't want it to be like A Hero's Tale, where it's just this big flat plane. There wasn't a whole lot to get you thinking. Um, on top of that, let's see. I would like to return to the multiple breath powers. I think that's become a bit of a staple, but I want the breath powers to have more unique functions where they can do different things in combat, but they can also do different things in the world to improve your mobility, like the quantum masks in Crash 4. Like in Earth Breath, they can create platforms, or a Wind Breath, they can create whirlwinds, or something to that effect. Those are rudimentary ideas, but just something like that to really expand the different options and to create more potential puzzles. Because Spyro's 2 and 3 became very linear, and I think that's because Insomniac ran out of ways to design levels. So having breath abilities to unlock new platforming challenges and the free flight can expand what we can what we can do in this area.
Exactly. I do want to see more done with not just breath abilities, but as Mark has said before, like wing abilities, horn power-ups, even it looked like in some of the concept designs that we've seen already that they were experimenting with making the tip of Spyro's tail look different, as if there were going to be some kind of tail power-ups. So they might be doing something with that. So that would be really interesting to see. And in a recent interview, Toys for Bob has confirmed that the free flight is now just a core part of Spyro's moveset directly from the beginning of the game. How do you think that will change things?
Well, obviously, Spyro's always had to glide and always had the fear of falling to his death, to the point where I saw people joking that Dom the Dragon removed the single greatest thing that can kill Spyro, the Abyss. So I think it would change a great deal. Ultimately, hearing that, I'm just thinking to myself, it might start off like Sonic Colors or Sonic Generations, where it just throws you into the gameplay, where you just start off flying, which is not something I think we've seen in a Spyro game before. The closest we've got is like Spyro 2, starting you off in a level rather than a hub. But
Mm.
I think the main way it'll change things is to just drop us in a place that will require us to fly around so we can understand how this mechanic functions. Um, and they may even throw in some crevices to tell you, oh, look, you're not going to have to fear falling to your death now. Um,
Yeah.
but ultimately, I think like the biggest change it would create is just opening new doorways. Because like it might have been the same interview, but I read in an interview that there's just a bunch of different mechanics for the players to use when flying. Because when you can find or fire that can launch you up, or various rings that can keep you elevated. So we're just going to be seeing lots of different things like that throughout not only the tutorial level, but throughout the entire game. And now that I'm thinking about it, I'm just thinking about what kind of obstacles they'll throw at us that we've never seen before as we fly. Like a storm
Mm.
cloud that you're going to have to avoid or something to that effect.
Right. Because you don't want to be just able to fly anywhere and be able to get to where you want to go immediately. Where's the challenge? A lot of people were asking that. So that's an interesting idea, having air obstacles as well as ground ones. So if they were to add Cinder in the game, how do you think they would go about that?
I think she would either start off as a villain or as the heir of a villain. Because the spirit of Cinder's character is that she has this dark past of villainy that she's trying to escape from. If that's not there, then is it really Cinder, or is it just someone wearing Cinder's skin and flashing her ID? Um, so So either she's like, we're gonna get some backstory about how black dragons were the evil dragons, and she's the last one, and she just wants to steer clear of all the bad connotations, or she's gonna start off as a villain for a first level, defeated a boss, and then become a player character for the rest of the game, like Coco and Crash 4.
Okay, so you're more for starting off as a villain, or at least on the antagonist side of things.
Yeah, because that's where she's always been, just a person who's trying to escape from the darkness.
Okay, and what if she was an ally directly from the start? Do you think they would be able to work that out?
As long as they can at least like make sure she still has some kind of legacy or history, like even it like let's see, I never watched a whole lot of Skylanders, but I watched like the episode where Cinder first appeared, and her whole story is that she was like the daughter of Malefor, and she's trying to get away from that. So if she's not a villain from the start, then I do think it can work as long as it's something similar to what Skylanders did.
Okay, and speaking of Malefor, who do you think this new villain could be? Do you think it's a completely new character? Do you think it's maybe based off Malefor or the Sorcerer or some other character we've seen before?
It's probably a new character that they're not ready to show off yet, but if it is someone familiar, I would imagine it's the Sorcerer because I never played a whole lot of Shadow Legacy, but it was the last classic Spyro entry before the Legend trilogy, and it ended on a bit of a cliffhanger where a greater battle was being set up, and that cliffhanger was never resolved.
True.
So, as a show of good faith to say, yeah, Spyro is back, it would make sense for them to invoke the Sorcerer to finally tie up that story thread.
Actually, yeah. I never thought about it that way, but that game did end on a cliffhanger that was never resolved. So, no, I don't think this in any way is going to be, a continuation of Shadow Legacy or anything, because that would be like, expecting the whole fan base to have played that game or any of the games that came before it. And I think it's more like a distant sequel to the original trilogy, but that still, that would be a possibility.
But if it's not the Sorcerer, my guess is it might be a villain akin to like maybe Emperor Tachyon in the Ratchet and Clank series, because they're making this big deal about how Spyro's going to be challenged in a very serious, emotional way. And the only way I can think of off the top of my head is for him to confront someone who serves as like a mirror to him in all the worst ways. Like Tachyon was a mirror to Ratchet in all the worst ways.
Mm.
Like Spyro's whole origin story as a hero was that he was the only dragon who didn't get hit by Nasty Nork's spell. So what if this is a villain who has a similar backstory in that his people were all frozen or sealed away somewhere, and he made all the wrong choices in his desperation to save them.
Oh, that's brilliant. Wow, I really like that. Dang. A Spyro villain that's like Tachyon, that isn't Ripto, because Ripto is sort of the Tachyon, but in his own way. I do think that that the new villain could be a dragon of some sort. That's what I'm thinking. Because the way that they've talked about it so far, it makes me think that it's at least going to be a dragon or some kind of mythical creature.
I personally hope it's not a dragon. In the same way that Ripto and Dr. Nefarious have been kind of overplayed, I think the franchise kind of overplayed dragon villains. Like, it was cool when we saw it with Red. Then we had Cinder as this possessed nemesis. Then we had that really cool twist where the Dark Master was the first purple dragon. After that, I think it's a little tired, but it's a high likelihood that they're going to do it again.
Yeah, no, you're right about that. That could be true. It would be really cool if it was a griffin or a phoenix, something that we wouldn't expect. I'm not sure what to think with the little glimpse that we got already by, seeing the horns and like the little hand that we saw. I don't know, it seems vaguely dragon-like for now, but it could be anything. How about when it comes to playable characters? Do you want this to go back to the roots of the first game where it's only Spyro being playable? Or do you think that we could get playable Elora or Bianca, or maybe Hunter's back at it again, or things like that?
I would prefer the roots because I wasn't too keen on a lot of the player characters in Spyro 3 or Crash 4 for that matter. I just find the most joy in the characters that the game was originally designed around. And with these new mechanics, I think, with this new flight mechanic at least, I think that there's a lot they can do without having to resort to new characters. But the point is that new characters like Bentley or Agent 9 can get really annoying pretty fast. Especially if it's mandatory that you play as them at least once to complete the main campaign.
Mm-hmm. Right. So no chance of making Elora or Bianca playable. If they were, what would you like to see from them, or which one do you think deserves it more?
I would say which one deserves it more is probably Bianca because she has more of a skill set with her magic. The question is, like, how would that function? Because I would prefer that we stick to a more platforming approach. So maybe like a magic spell allows her to turn to enemies to mimic Mario Odyssey.
Okay, that could be an idea. Yeah, I do think she has a lot of potential with her magic. Let's see. So, you write books. Was there anything from Spyro that you were inspired by when you started writing?
Off the top of my head, it's a very silly thing. In the first Spyro game, when you're exploring beastkeepers, you can find all these cacti. If you shoot flames on them, they get covered in soot, and they eventually shake them off. And that always made me wonder, what if those things actually moved? It inspired this sort of little sequence in the second book, Blue Knight, where Zeph and her nemesis Isidore are working together to save each other's friends, and they end up stuck in a canyon full of carnivorous cacti that's slow moving. And I have Spyro 1 to thank for that. Just slowly encroaching upon them. If they get close, they tear off a chunk of flesh, and it's just a very slow and painful death.
Wow. Oh, just that little part is inspired by Spyro. Oh, that's really cool.
Yeah.
How about character-wise? Like, did you take anything from other characters that inspired yours?
Off the top of my head, there's the Dark Master in the Legend trilogy. I'm just gonna call him the Dark Master because that's who he was for most of the trilogy. I hadn't watched Lord of the Rings when Legend of Spyro came out, so the Dark Master was my first time encountering a sort of looming threat villain. Like, I was used to villains like Dr. Claw, who just always kept their faces hidden in the shadow, but always kept talking, monologuing. I'll get you next time, gadget, and all that.
Mm-hmm.
But a looming threat villain was even less than that. They just don't even appear. They're just spoken of as the greatest evil there ever was. And there's a sort of terror to that, but also an intrigue, because I kept wondering, what's this character like? What's this character like? And it always fascinated me. And that kind of inspired the Great Old One in the Knight Saga, because it's meant to be this looming threat, to the point where like I didn't. It has names, but I mostly focus on giving it the title the Old One to resemble the Dark Master, because I thought the Dark Master was more intimidating when he's just the Dark Master. When he became Malfoy, he's just some guy. So yeah, the Old One, yeah, the Old One was in part inspired by the Legend Trilogy's handling of the Dark Master.
That's very cool. And, that's a question I can ask about the villain for Realm Beyond. Do you want to see more of a looming threat type of thing rather than one with, a presence all the time?
It would be interesting to see the classic series try that at least once. I don't think they're gonna do it, because like we've already like heard the villain and seen a glimpse of him. I think we're gonna see more as the as the trailers go on. But it would be nice to see Spyro do that at least once as a villain who can stand apart from all the rest, like Ripto's, or this villain who has great ambitions of taking over the world. The sorceress is petty and wants to live forever at the expense of her world. Nasty York is petty and insecure, and turns gems into monsters so you won't have to look at his face. So having a villain who's just this looming threat would be like an interesting thing to add to the roster, who's very much independent. I don't think we're going to get that, but it would be nice to see it happen at least once.
So how do you think that this game should handle boss fights? Do you want it to be a unique approach like Spyro 1, where they had boss levels, or like maybe a whole world that's themed around what boss you're going to fight? Or do you want a typical arena thing like we see in the games afterward?
I would like a typical arena, but after hearing you describe the boss levels, I'm thinking it would be neat to have a kind of penultimate level before the bosses. Like after you complete all the main levels, you unlock the final level, and that final level can contain obstacles and serve as a sort of soft tutorial for how the boss works, and then the boss level in an arena.
Awesome. I'm surprised that you said you would prefer the arena thing. Is that just easier for you, I suppose?
I think the reason I'm thinking that is because when playing the Reignite trilogy with the no hit skill points, I always freak out a little bit if I get hit by an enemy before I get to the boss, because I left wondering whether that will affect the me taking no hits for a boss. Like if I'm playing Metalhead and one of those monkeys hits me. I don't think it does, but it always has me panicking. So just having them be distinct, I think, would be nice.
Do you think skill points are going to return?
That's a good question, because another day I would have said yes, but looking at Ratchet and Clank, skill points haven't been present in the recent titles. So, and not to mention, skill points typically reward players with extra lives, and Crash Bandicoot kind of softly pushed the life system to the side, and I would expect a Realm Beyond to do the same thing. So probably not. Probably just trophies.
Just trophies.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah, I feel like they might not go for that either. It's... see, I never was one to go and get all the skill points anyway. I could, like, for the ones that if it was easy enough, I could go do it. But, like, a lot of them had to do with flights and time trial things, and I never liked that.
Yeah, I typically skip the flight skill points until I started feeling like a completionist. As especially, I nowadays I do make it get most of the skill points, because I like farming for lives. I like to get to 99 lives before the end, and that helps. But I typically skip the one-time skill points in the Lost Fleet, because not only is that annoying, but if you retry too many times to reignite, it causes the game to glitch. So I'm like, yeah, no, I'm not dealing with you. Yeah, the audio just stopped working.
Well, that sucks.
Yeah, not helped by the fact that sometimes you will trip your skateboard over absolutely nothing in that challenge.
Exactly. Exactly. I was I was just talking about that with Mark, how what everything is so broken in Reignited when it comes to skateboarding and, you know, the Yeti snowboarding thing. Like the fact that you're just like you're trying to do when you're trying to do a trick and then you can't align yourself properly and like Spyro just like he'll just go flying off and meanwhile he's just staying stationary on the skateboard with like the stupidest grin on his face and I'm just like this is so broken, man.
Or the fact that the first flip doesn't count anymore for some reason.
Oh my
I think
god, you're right. You're right. Why doesn't it?
I have no idea.
I oh my god. Actually, yeah, I never thought about that. Yeah, it doesn't count because my technique for the Yeti race in the original versus Reignited is way different because I have to do 4 flips in Reignited and it's probably because the first one doesn't count.
Funny enough, I actually thought that the Yetis were easier in Reignited. In the original, I can only beat the Yetis if I perform a glitch in which I farm a bunch of speed boosts before starting the race.
Yeah, I think I know which one you're talking about.
Yeah.
I do think the same thing. I think it's easier in Reignited, but that's only because it is so broken that, you know, you can use it to your advantage. And even then, sometimes you just get those glitches where it's just like one time I was at the end and one of the Yetis just like blipped into existence in front of me and I lost.
God.
Like you know, you can't prevent that. It just happened. Like that's not supposed to happen. So it's things like that where I'm just like, ugh, you know, you could have polished this game. And Spyro 3 is my favorite game, despite things like that. I don't like it in the original either. All right. You know what? Before we end off, let's do a little lightning round here. Okay. So, okay. Favorite game?
A favorite game from the series? Spyro the Dragon, I guess.
Favorite NPC?
Oh, God. Favorite NPC. You know, I'll go with Moneybags because he has funny things to say if you say no, particularly in the third game.
Ooh, interesting. I like the answer. I like the Moneybags answer for that one.
Yep. Best not to anger a magician, Spyro. I might just turn you into a blue hedgehog or something.
Yes. Favorite orb challenge?
Oh, favorite orb challenge. Oh God, let me think over them. You definitely blindsided me with that. I think I'm just gonna go with the Tiki challenge where you have to use the supercharge to knock all the hula girls off the platforms. There's something very satisfying about completing that lap.
Okay, interesting. Favorite egg challenge?
Favorite egg challenge. You know what? I think I'm gonna go with the beating Hunter in the arena, the skateboard arena in I think it's called Enchanted Towers, because it's in part because I just like going for the skill point, but it's just really there are a lot of options, and I can just get like 5,000 points before he even gets 1,000, and I can just stop then, so I can pat myself on the back.
Cool. Awesome. Enchanted Towers is my personal favorite level, and actually, next question, favorite level?
Well, for the original, I'd say it's Dark Hollow. It's a very short, very simple level, just a tutorial level, but it has such rich atmosphere. I wish it were longer. Just like the night sky, the hills with all the trees in the distance, and that music, that beautiful music. Yeah. Yeah, plus that little crevice. They turned it into a library and Reignited. It's just very beautiful. Just seeing that little pond in that dark enclosure, the lights coming from it.
Yeah, I do like that a lot. It looks very nice and Reignited. And I do love the music. That's one of my favorite tracks. Favorite homeworld?
You know what? I think it's Evening Lake. I love the music of it. It's very atmospheric. It did something very, very technologically complicated at the time with that big whale floating around they can enter, which was a very funny surprise first time playing. But it's just a very pretty, very, very pretty place to just swim around, listening to the music, and just enjoying yourself.
Yeah. Cool, cool. And the last one, favorite piece of music.
Favorite piece of music from this entire series. I'm going to say it's a tie between the Evening Lake music, because again, I love listening to that when swimming around, and the music for the credits.
Oh.
Across all three games. What you hear the main theme playing as the camera pans over the levels, reminding you of your journey. It's just something very, very delightfully charming about that, though that might be nostalgia talking. And now that I've said it, I also want to see the credits give us a camera roll of the previous levels again. Please do that, Toys for Bob.
Yes, actually, that's a very good one, yes. That is something I would like to see as well. Just little things like that from the originals, just to give us that nostalgic charm again. All right, well, that is the end for the lightning round, and I'm going to end it there. Thank you so much for being on this episode of SpyroCast.
Of course. Thank you for having me.
It was a really fun conversation, very good answers. And thank you, all of you out there, for listening. As always, don't forget to subscribe for more casual gaming content, and I will see you on the next SpyroCast. Until then, this is Miharu, signing off.